Hi everyone, Chris here. So I set the bar really low last time, unintentionally, of course. And when I started recording for legendary slanderer Pastor Sky, I realized how much I hated the sound of my own voice. And I tried really hard to find an AI that would read what I wrote so I could record it. But when I saw you had to pay like $2 or something, I was quickly deterred. Yes, I take toilet paper from restrooms when I run out at home. I may be in Providence, but I do identify as a Jew. I did find some AI that I really liked for reading what I wrote, and I really like the British versions. I really enjoy British dry humor, and everything just sounds 10 times more funny and sexy when it's said in a British accent. I spent some time with Chun or Gordon, if you will, whichever you prefer. And you may or may not know him, but he's from New Zealand, and I laughed nonstop for 3 days because everything he says is hilarious. If we could just get him on here giving a lecture on soil erosion, I would enjoy every second. I really enjoy British humor, like I said, so if there's anybody over there across the pond uh, who wants to do this, please, please. Anyway, so I watched that show Physical 100 that Sky was talking about on his podcast. Whenever Sky advertises something on his podcast, my wife takes it as the words of God and tells me I have to abide by it. Hence why I had to watch Physical 100. Unfortunately, she didn't say the same thing when Sky advertised John Wick. Sounds a little selective on her part. She's probably going to have to reflect on her life of faith in Pastor Sky. I myself don't have as good of faith as my wife in Pastor Sky, and I have a confession to make. I didn't listen to Sky's podcast religiously like my wife did in the past. She even listened a day ahead because we are Patreon supporting members. Pastor Sky used to do different Patreon contribution levels, such as Golden City and Heaven level. He had to stop doing that, of course, because as you can imagine, it was a little triggering. I can for sure say that myself uh, at least contributed at the crawling out of the abyss level. Anyway, my wife told me one day that Sky was doing a segment on cryptocurrency. Maybe some of you recall Sky was really hyped about his baked beans project and the neighbors project. Long story short, I didn't listen to Sky's podcast for any of the spiritual aspects. I just tuned into the cryptocurrency segments and decided to put my money into those same projects. I lost all of it, thousands of dollars. So, in this time of repenting and providence, I repent for not listening to the message when Sunsunum told us many times we should not do pyramid schemes or Ponzi schemes with other church members. Thank you for listening to this segment of Chris's Money. All you have to do to get rich is not spend money on risky investments. Now, some of you are going to say I'm slandering Pastor Sky, but I take full responsibility for my own actions, and it is 100% my fault that this happened to me. The fact that I lost a lot of money in and of itself isn't that funny, to me anyway. But the fact that I lost it on a virtual world project where you reside in an avatar body of a middle-aged overweight man is kind of funny, you have to admit. When I saw the teaser trailer for the Neighbors Project, I should have known. It was literally an overweight, middle aged male running around in this project slum kind of neighborhood, and this is supposed to be like an escape from reality, when it's actually worse than the reality that I live in. I bet people complained like they do about Instagram models and were like, oh, these standards are too high to live up to. Nobody can attain these beautiful houses and these beautiful bodies. Make it more realistic. And this is what they come up with: a middle aged, overweight male with fast food stains on his white t shirt living in his mother's basement. And this is what you escape your terrible reality with. I should have seen that project failing from a few hundred miles away. So back to the show that Pastor Sky forced me to watch, Physical 100. You know, the show that he was talking about where the elite athletes of Korea all come together to do competitions and find out whose body is the best. Well, I heard that the producer of the Netflix special on Providence is the same producer that produced that show. And if you ever watched Physical 100, it's kind of funny because there's one black guy in the entire show, and I think he speaks Korean, and he makes it pretty far, but whenever he's having a conversation with the other Koreans, it's like the cameraman intentionally puts the camera on him due to obligation, and then 1 second later quickly pans it off him. So you know he doesn't want to put him on camera, but he has to. It's kind of highlighting the undertones of racism in Korea. And it also makes you kind of wish Sunsunim was black. Because if he was, he wouldn't even get a Netflix special. And just like history repeats itself, future generations would debate whether the Messiah was black or not. Unfortunately, I think that's the only black joke I can get away with due to my genetic disorder of being famously white. I recently got reprimanded by my head leader for being too direct and confrontational to another member. I tried to explain to him that that's how I like to expedite information to exhibit a quick and definite result. Obviously, it's something I need to work on in this week of repenting, but my wife has a different kind of problem. The other day, she yelled at me for being impolite to Alexa, and I was like, what? It's a machine. I guess it's human enough for her, though, because whenever she talks to it, she treats it better than me. She's like, Alexa, would you please play me some Christian music? Thank you, Alexa. Clearly, I need to start taking relationship advice from Jeff Bezos because he's created an inanimate object that my wife respects more than me. So I'm sure some of you out east know who the Dalai Lama is. He's supposed to be a holy man of Tibet in Buddhism, and he's supposed to be reincarnated every so often. Anyway, it was in the news this past week that the Dalai Lama requested that a 5-year-old boy suck his tongue. Yeah, the whole incident was caught on video. This is a true story. Evidently, the Buddhist leaders accidentally found a pedophile as their replacement for the reincarnate Dalai Lama. In response, the leaders of Buddhism said, oops, our bad. We thought he was the reincarnate Dalai Lama, but actually he was the reincarnation of Michael Jackson. Now, I know things look really bad in Korea right now for Providence, but maybe we should start thinking about pioneering a church in Tibet, where the consequences of French kissing a 5-year-old is a chuckle and a slap on the wrist. Now, you might not believe this, but in Tibetan culture, touching tongues is like saying hello. And the Dalai Lama, of course, is known for his practical jokes. I'm sure he was like, psych! Enjoy herpes for the rest of your life. He got that boy real good. Can you imagine the amount of mouth herpes in Tibet? It sounds like one big 1960s hippie commune. Peace, love, and French kissing instead of a handshake. The Dalai Lama was actually exiled from Tibet and lives in India now. Not from his love of young boys, rather the revolt he led against the Chinese occupation. But it seems Tibetan customs aren't taking too well in India. Alright, I feel obligated to do a Chuck Norris joke for Steve in Canada. Oh, geez. So, those of you who don't know who Chuck Norris is, he is the epitome of what a real man should be. He is muscular. He can roundhouse kick a guy. He is affluent in martial arts and is pretty much just a real man and unstoppable. So, this is all the background you need for this. So, Chuck Norris actually, believe it or not, he was shown the Netflix documentary about Sunsingnem. Yeah, I know, right? Shocking. So, when he saw it, he was confused and thought it was a biography about his own life. I mean, when you think about it, what other human being could play soccer for 8 hours, preach the word for 12 hours, then make love to hundreds of women, pray, and start the next day without sleeping? I mean, come on. Chuck Norris, right? Alright, well, I have not quit my day job, and I'm probably going to be fired from this soon, so, see you next week, maybe.